What's up, everyone? I'm Travis, and you're watching Upgraded RC. How's it going? I hope everybody is doing well. I hope you've all had a chance to get out there and do a little bit of crawling. I know I've been trying. I'm having a blast. It's a lot of fun. But anyway, what we're going to do here today, this is going to be video number 1 in a 5-part video series for the top 5 upgrades on the SCX10III and the SCX10III JT Gladiator, which is what this beautiful thing right here is. Now, if you're wondering what the differences are, the SCX10III, the stock version, has a 12.3-inch wheelbase. The JT Gladiator comes stock with a 13.9-inch wheelbase. So that's exactly 1.5 inches longer on the wheelbase. I think it helps out quite a bit. It also gets you in some binds a little bit. It depends on how you drive. But anyway, we're going to get going with this video here. Today, I'm going to show you how to change out your 14-tooth pinion to your 11-tooth pinion. That way, you have greater climbing ability. It's a little bit more stable. You've got slower wheel speed, a little bit more control. I think it really helps me crawl and get over the obstacles a little bit better. It's probably the top upgrade I can think of that I did that helped me out right away. It's cheap, and I'm going to show you guys step by step exactly how to do this. Let's get started. So go ahead and take your cover off and then grab a 2mm Allen, and we're going to go ahead and take this cross member off here. I'll bring the camera in a little bit closer so you guys can see what's going on. So our first step right here is to go ahead and take this screw out and this screw out. So once you get these 2 screws out here, now this whole top piece here, everything here is going to come off. Your valve covers and your cold air intake and all that stuff's going to come off. Now, the thing is, if you see right here, see this wire right here? This is for your servo. It's coming down here to your receiver. You want to be very careful of that when you're taking this out, that this piece right here doesn't rip that off the servo. That'd be really bad, guys. You don't even want to put any stress on it at all. So you want to take it out very, very carefully. So here's how you're going to get it out. This piece right here, the wire rides on top of this piece. If I put my finger here and pick up on it, you can see the whole piece move, but it's kind of wedged in underneath the wire right there. So this is where you got to be careful. Just go ahead and put your finger, your thumbnail, on this pulley here and pull out just a little bit very gently, guys. When you're doing that, go ahead and rotate this up like this, and it'll pop out of place. There you go. You can see right there, that's where that wire was riding. So when you're putting it back in, you're doing the same thing. You're pushing down and you're rotating to get this to come up underneath the wire. That way you don't damage the wire right here. It's real susceptible to damage, guys. Be really careful about that. This is kind of a tight fit. Okay, so after you get your cross member off, go ahead and very gently twist this servo wire here out of the way so you're not hurting it or anything. We're taking this apart. Now the very next thing we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and remove this screw and this screw here. Those are also the same size, both 2mm Allens. What that's going to do is it's going to open up this examination area or this service point here to check out your pinion or keep it tight or whatever you're doing. It's also going to allow us to pull the motor out and change the pinion. So go ahead and pull this off here. All right, and you'll probably notice that these screws here are different. They've got a little bit bigger head on them. Just keep in mind where they go. Now, let's go ahead and pull this inspection cover off here that's going to access our motor. There you go. It just kind of pops right out of there just like that. Now you can see our pinion in here. You can see what's going on. All right, so the next step here, now that we've got our pinion and motor exposed, is to go ahead and grab the motor back here on the back and the front and go ahead and twist it in a motion that pulls it out this way. There you go. Okay, so now you can see our pinion here. And guys, you're probably looking at this going, wow, that looks pretty small compared to the stock pinion. Well, you know what? It is. Like I said, I've already changed out the 14-tooth pinion for the 11. I did that so that I could go out and do some testing and make sure that what I was talking about was real and I wasn't screwing you guys around. But there's the 11 that I put on there. I'm going to take it off and take this plate off so I can show you guys how to put the plate on the correct number and where it is for which gear you're going to be using. Okay, so when you're going to go ahead and take your pinion off the shaft here, I wouldn't recommend using a T-handle Allen, guys. I'd recommend just using the regular Allen. This little socket head screw is on here so tight, it's ridiculous from the factory. So you're going to want a shorter distance here so you're not bending the shaft on your Allen. Just be very careful and go ahead and loosen it up. Like I said, I've already had this one off and I put Loctite on here so I knew it wouldn't be that bad. But you just got to take this and loosen it up just enough here. Don't lose that little tiny socket screw, just enough to where you can go ahead and pull it out and then you can pull your pinion off. And that's pretty much it. Keep note of which way this goes, the relationship. You're always going to want, I don't know if you guys noticed that, but there's a flat shaft right here. You're always going to want your socket head screw on that shaft, and you're going to want the gears pointed towards the transmission or towards the motor, the gears away from this motor here. So pull that off. Now we'll go ahead and we're going to take this off so I can show you what's going on here. So now we're back to the 2mm again, and once again, these are also very tight from the factory. They got them and they're really tight, so be careful. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to pull our screws out. And here is our adapter that goes on the motor. This is what makes it really easy so that your gear mesh is damn near perfect no matter what you do, as long as you have these holes in the correct place and the correct gear on for the corresponding holes. So if you'll notice on this motor here, guys, right here, here, and here, there's a hole, okay? They're all threaded. Now, the ones you want to use are the two that are opposing each other. This one here and this one here are the ones that you're using. I'm not sure what this one's for, but it's not applicable for this. So now that you've got your adapter plate on here, and go ahead and face it up so that all the numbers are visible. Now you can see these numbers on here. They did a really good job on this. You can see you've got an 11 tooth here, and then it goes 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And then it's the same thing on the other side here. So what you're doing is you're lining up these holes right here with the holes in this adapter plate based on the pinion size that you're taking. So if you go ahead and you want to use 11, see I got 11 right here, and there's that top hole there. So when I put this on here and I screw my screw into 11 through that one, guess what? There's 11 on the other side. It's going to screw right into there too. So go ahead and figure out what size gear or pinion gear you're going to put on this shaft. Once you got that figured out, you can put this on here, line up the holes with that gear size to these two, and tighten it down really good. That's pretty much it for that. Let's go ahead and put that back on. And when you're putting these screws back in here, I would recommend a very little bit, just a drop of blue Loctite. That way you know these screws aren't coming out into your transmission or something while you're out there running around and you don't know what's going on. So just go ahead and put a little bit of Loctite on them and get them fairly snug just like they were for you. After you get your adapter plate back on the motor here, go ahead and pull your socket head screw, that little tiny Allen, out of your gear, your pinion gear, and put a little bit of Loctite on that as well. This is also important, guys. You don't want that to come off while you're out there. God, it's so small I don't even think you'd find it out there in the rocks. So go ahead and do that and put that back in your pinion. After you put some Loctite on there and you get your socket head back in the pinion, go ahead and slide that on. And remember, you got the flat side of the shaft right here that you're sliding your socket head on. So go ahead and put that on there. Now, I'm not going to tell you to tighten this up yet. We're going to leave it loose for the moment, okay? We just want it snug enough to where it's not going to come off right now, and we're lined up on that flat side of the shaft. What we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and put this motor back in here where it goes, and then I'm going to show you an important step on how to line this gear up with your spur gear. So now it's time to go ahead and drop our motor in here and make sure that the pinion lines up with the spur as far as the in and out, the depth that this pinion is penetrating into the spur. We want them to line up perfectly flush. So, okay, so you'll notice right here, there's a notch in this motor. Well, that notch in that motor goes right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to drop this motor in here, kind of the same thing you did before. We're just going to put it down in there, rotate it a little bit until these two gears right here mesh, and you can move the tires and see them meshing. Okay, now one of the things I want to show you here, what I was talking about was lining up the pinion with the spur. Let me go ahead and get a better camera angle on that so I can show you. Well, hopefully everybody can see that spur gear back there in the back, and this is the pinion gear that we just put on. Well, if you notice, you can see the edge of the spur gear here, and the pinion is quite a bit further back into the motor as far as depth. It's not lining up flush the way we want it to with our spur gear. So what we're going to do is you can use a pick or your fingernail. This is why we left it loose, guys. Go ahead and pull this out just a little bit, very gently, until you get it to where it looks like it's lined up just perfect. Right there. This gear and this gear are the same line going all the way across. Looks great. So go ahead and do that. And once you get it just perfect, you're going to rotate this. You can move the tires or you can move the pinion, however you want to do it, until it exposes your socket head screw. And then go ahead and tighten that down. And then we're going to pull the motor back out and make sure it's really tight, then put it back in again and make sure these are lined up for our final process. I've pulled my motor back out again because I want to go ahead and stick my Allen in the socket head and really make sure it's tight from out here, super tight. So now that we got all that going on, and also very important, the flat side of the shaft, like we talked about, make sure that socket head is on that shaft. If it is not on the shaft and you tighten it down somewhere else, it was an accident and it moved on you, it's going to be catastrophic, guys. Now we're going to use this notch and that piece sticking out there, and we're going to stick it back in here and get it all flush and the way that it's supposed to be lined up good. So go ahead and do that very gently. Watch out for your wires in the back. Get that in there where you want it. Once you get that in there where you want it, guys, and you think it's just about right, you can put your finger on the motor and you can move your wheels back and forth. Make sure that that pinion turns with the spur. And once again, we are all lined up perfectly in there. Everything's tight. It looks good. So now we can go ahead and put our inspection cover cap back on, which also holds down the motor. So after you get these here nice and snug, guys, and you feel good about it, and remember, you're putting a metal screw into plastic here, so it's not going to take much to strip it out. Now you do want this to be very snug, but not near as tight as I told you to do the pinion. So once we got that good and your motor feels great, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take this servo wire here that we moved out of the way, and we're going to bring it back over and route it right through here like this, so that when we put our valve cover and cold air intake piece back on, it's going to be routed correctly and we're not pinching any wires. Now right here, if you guys can see that little notch underneath your cold air intake here, that's where your wire is going to go through. Let me show you. Now remember, we're going to take and we're going to stick this down like this, pull this pulley out just a little bit with our nail, straight down, and then we're going to twist this into place like this. Now this wire here is going to lay flat against this, and it's going to come through this little hole here that I told you on the front, right directly underneath your cold air intake, and then it's going to get routed out the back here. That way, we're not pinching our wire anywhere, and this is just a little bit tricky to get on here exactly the way that it's supposed to be, but make sure you do get it right where it wants to be. Make sure that this corner here is not popped up because your pulley here is pushing on it or anything. Make sure that all your holes line up and everything. And then very important, go ahead and before you tighten it down, make sure that this wire moves freely. Because if that wire doesn't move freely, that means that you're pinching it. And when you go to tighten it down, you're probably going to cut it in half or ruin the wires in one way or another. Now that being said, after you tighten these two screws down, when you get everything lined up where it's supposed to be, go ahead and try it again and make sure this is still free. You don't want to pinch that. Now I'm going to go ahead and pull this through just a little bit here so that most of my slack is on this side here where I want it. Okay, we've still got a little bit here. You don't want to make it so tight that it's going to rip that out if you get in a wreck and it pulls on this and rips that out. So you want a little bit of slack here, but you also don't want it to catch on anything. So this is about the correct mount, and we have our routing correct, and everything still moves freely. That's it. Let's go ahead and button this back up. Well, that wasn't too bad. I'd say for the amount of performance we're going to get out of this 11-tooth pinion gear, those few simple steps that we just did right now were no big deal. It was worth every minute that we spent on it. It was worth every penny I spent on this. So kind of a ballpark price from my hobby shop, guys, was around $5 for this pinion. like I said, worth every penny. It's going to help us climb steeper hills easier. It's going to slow our wheel speed down so we can get over larger obstacles that are in our way and we don't have to bump it and jump up there and destroy our body or anything. So I think it's going to be great. And once again, I do believe this is probably the best upgrade you can do first. Bang for bang, dollar for dollar, buck for buck to get the most performance out of your vehicle. It's going to work out really good. I've already used it. You can definitely tell a huge difference. Thank you very much for watching again. You guys know I'm always appreciative of that. And if you guys have any comments, go ahead and leave me comments. If you have any questions, don't hesitate. I will get back with you. It may not be right away, but I promise you I'll get back with you. I will answer your questions to the best of my ability. If I don't know, I'll tell you I don't know, where you can go to have them answered. That's it, guys. This concludes the video on our pinion gear change. You guys go have fun. Send me pictures, send me videos. Like I said, comment. I love it all. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I will see you on video number 2 coming up right around the corner. Peace out.